Good afternoon, everybody. Shalom, Rastafari, I. Hope everyone's heading in there, doing well. I wanted to do a brief little video again, because I'm in the mood for videos, even though I haven't really had the time to prepare for them. But like I said on the last video, I wanted to get into some astrology and some of the roots wisdom, and I'm going to use this brief video to just kind of introduce what is called the study of astrotheology. It's the tie of astrology and theology, so it's the study of the stars and in the solar system and astronomy tied to the sense of theology. And the study of the concept of God and what God really is. And with that said, this can be tied back to ancient Egyptian mythology and the study of symmetry and sacred geometry and that kind of stuff. But all my notes on Egypt are in a binder that are at a separate house where I was living before, so I'm gonna have to wait on digging into the Egypt mythology and that kind of wisdom. But I'll use this video to kind of just dig into what astrotheology is. First off, I'm using these videos to just kind of give people a basic understanding of what I've started to, and to give them a leadway to go search at other people's works, because the wisdom I'm sharing is stuff that I've pulled from other people's work, and I'm not trying to take their work or take their credit. I'm just trying to share what I've learned from them and how I've applied it to other things, and give a basic understanding, and share it onto the crowd that follows me, and they can go back and dig into the work of the other people that I've taken from. With that said, there's a man named Santos Bonacci, brilliant man, out of Australia, independent researcher, and within the last decade, just really started to dedicate his life in the study of astrotheology and religion in the concept of the stars tell everything. The stars hold all the stories. If you study the stars, you'll understand the scripture. And his work was one of the first people's work I dug into when I left Christianity and started to really understand what Christianity was and how it can be applied in an astrological sense, and how you can really make sense of the stories and really not wonder, did this really happen, or is this a story that's metaphorically or allegorically telling me something else? And I'm not taking any historical value out of the Bible, because I firmly believe that there was a man named Jesus Christ who walked the land and lived in this world and taught this way. Other people, even Santos, I think, has some discrepancy on if that is true or not, but that's something I hold true. With that said, these same stories that might have not been so coherently and acted out in a historical value can be applied to the stars and the planets of the solar system and understood that way. And I'm just going to give a brief description and kind of give you an understanding of what that really means. First off, with any kind of study, there comes an ideal behind the study, or there comes a philosophy behind the study. All this kind of work can be accumulated under the title of philosophy. Philosophy is the study of thought, the study of comprehension, the study of pertaining wisdom, and applying your perspective. But with astrotheology comes the philosophy and the ideal of as above, so below. And this is rooted in the sense of what happens in the sky can be mirrored on what happens unto nature, and that what really goes on in the heavens is the same thing that goes on in earth. The one's being acted out in a solar sense, and one's being acted out in the natural sense. And you know, this is how the Bible is written. It is how other religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism are accumulated to the tie of astrology. You know, more prevalently understood and known, the tie of Greek mythology, and the understanding of the zodiacs. The zodiac signs, the 12 zodiac signs are the wheel of life. This is the heart of what religion is all built on, and it can be tied, you know, onto, you know, deeper mythology in the sense of Egyptian mythology and the stories of gods and goddesses and whatnot, and them being characters of the sky, essentially. So with that said, how do you start to take this perspective? Well, if you know, I'll go ahead and advise and advise you to start looking and watching Santos Bonacci's lectures. I've watched most of them, but it's been a while. You know, he started probably a couple years ago. I must have caught on to his work right when he started doing it, ironically. So I haven't gone back yet to familiarize myself. That's why I'm saying I'm just giving a brief concept and understanding. But as I'm doing these videos, I plan on watching these lectures and kind of giving my perspective on it and tying it to my understanding of religion and what I pull from it, and kind of giving a stepping stone way of relearning of what I've come to know is true. That's why I'm doing these videos. That's why I'm doing this blog. I'm not necessarily teaching. I'm sharing as I self-teach along the way. You know, a lot of these guys, you know, Santos and other men that are teaching this kind of wisdom have dedicated many hours and years into studying, and then they go back and they do their teaching. You know, they're teachers, they're astrologers, they're occult wisdom holders. They're not Illuminati. These people are not Illuminati. The men that come forth on YouTube and share this wisdom are the people that fight against Illuminati. They're the people that want the people to know this wisdom. These are the good guys. With that said, I'm taking a different aspect of it. As I go along and I teach myself, I'm gonna share with what I'm learning, so people can kind of learn along with me. So as above, so below. The thing I have just, you know, I've taken forward and you know, that's different than any other person, is taking the stance on that Rastafari is the truth to this wisdom. There's plenty of people that could sit down and say, yeah, I agree with that, but no one's taken the initiative to give the title of Rastafari to this ancient wisdom, and I'm going to do so because, you know, even in the title of Rastafari, you're pulling occult wisdom out of Egypt. Ra is the sun god, the divine head from the sun that, you know, the Egyptian pharaohs were said to have influence on. You know, so there's this religion, or it's not a religion, excuse me, this way of life is holding what all these other independent researchers are teaching, and I want to accumulate this wisdom and show the people of Rastafari, and show the people that are looking into Rastafari that this is just the truth. This is the way of truth, and you know, it's beautiful. So as above, so below, and to tie that into Rastafari, it's interesting. You know, sacred geometry and symbolism is huge in this study, because the stars work on structure and degree. Everything, you know, you can break it down to numbers if you would like. You know, that's where you get the real meaning and the irony out of it, you know, tied to the language, because the language is built on numbers. It's how it's built on the ground, and, you know, portrayed up above. But I took the tie of that saying to the symbol of the Star of David. And, you know, the Star of David is one of the forefront standing symbols in Rastafari, as being the root. You know, King David being the root of the royal lineage that was handed down through Judaism, Christianity, and now accumulated to Rastafari. But if you look at the Star of David, it's a 6-point star. You know, it's kind of interesting. You know, most stars are looked upon as 5-point stars. And 5, if you look at the number 5 alive, that's saying, you know, 5 alive is interesting, because the number 5 holds power. That's the essence of the number 5. But the root of David takes a 6-point star, and I haven't dug into, you know, the symbolism behind 6 and what that can accumulate to, but it stands out in the sense that it's built on an upper triangle and a lower triangle, and I took that as symbolism of what's pointed up is also pointed down. It's the mere reflection. It's what's going on up above is going on down below. So I took that forefront symbol in Rastafari, and I said, well, that's kind of the ideal and the philosophy behind what people are teaching as astrotheology. And it was interesting. So where do you begin? You begin with the 12 zodiacs. You begin with understanding some Greek mythology, and understanding the charisma and the characters of what the zodiac sign stands for, because nature is built on the zodiac, and the zodiac incorporates nature's aspect in a cycle sense. And if you ever go and look at your zodiac sign, I can surely not without a doubt tell you that it's going to describe you to on point. And you know, you apply that further and deeper on you know, your sun signs and your moon signs and whatnot, and depending on where we are on the year, you're getting different influences on your sign. And that's just the case. Like I said, I don't have the details. I don't have the wisdom written down in front of me. But I'm gonna take that journey again, because I did it once and it was very brief, and I connotated the basic understanding of it and said, wow, this is telling the truth. This is how you understand Christianity. This is why the Bible is the forefront in Scripture, because it's the best astrological story that there is. And this is what I want to share. But Santos Bonacci, check him out on YouTube and start watching his lectures. I'm going back to astrology before I go into any more Rastafari. I might do a bit of Rastafari on the side, so I can be tying the astrology to the Rastafari. But I gotta start with my roots, people. I gotta start with my roots, and it's astrology. So it's based on, you know, Greek mythology, and then you can tie it to Egyptian mythology, and then you can bring forefront the religion aspects of it, and start breaking down what are the biblical stories telling. You know, what stories are literal and what stories are stories of the sky. Because you know, there's one thing I gotta say, and that's that there is historical value in the Bible, without a doubt. And for people to just throw the Jesus figure to the side and say, you know, Jesus Christ didn't live, you're taking a stance that hasn't been explained yet. And I'm not directing that to you, Santos. I mean, I've been listening to some of your lectures, and that's kind of what I've been pulling at it. But I know you're one to leave the discrepancy up to the nature of things, and that's what I'm doing as well. And I want to keep that aspect in the study and in the teaching, that the possibility of a living Messiah is not out of the picture. Now, with that said, I don't know what more I can just say offhand. I don't have any notes. I think that's just kind of the brief little intro I want to give, and we'll go from there, and we'll see where it leads me. I'm gonna try some meditation and see if I can pull anything just through some meditation. So let's think. We're talking as above, so below. I asked that one earlier. I want to try something different. Let's say astrotheology. What is astrotheology? What can we pull from it? Rastafari, I recognize Jah as my creator. Jah, I'm here speaking truth on the subject and substance of the stars and the solar system and the sky, and how it correlates and incorporates what we know as the illustration of the biblical stories. And over the years, a lot of this has been taught literally, and to an extent that may be true, but as men like Santos Bonacci and other astrologers that understand the true spirit behind astrology have come forward and shared wisdom, they've shown that the stars really act out these stories. So what can we pull from on understanding what's literal and what's not literal, and the title Astrotheology? Can we meditate over that? So okay. It seems like most of the Bible seems to come to me as that it is mostly allegorical and metaphorical, but still having a divine influence sense that there was a Christ that lived and that taught this kind of way of life and taught this understanding. In the sense that you look at the title Astrotheology, Astrotheology, as the Trinity, the study, kind of. I don't know. That's what I pull. Tro can be rooted to Trinity, the ology being study. So it's kind of the study of the Trinity. Okay. So there you go, right there. Astrotheology, it's the study of the Trinity. You see, people, Phoenician language, phonics, phonetics, it's beauty. Santos knows many languages, and something he's inspired me as well. I want to learn as many world languages as I can before I die. But there's other ways other than Rosetta Stone to do it faster, and it's breaking down by phonetics. But even looking at meaning, you can pull by just syllables and pull meaning from each syllable and put it together, like I did for the title Astrotheology. Okay, and this is where I'll end. I'll end on this sense. So when I came home from New Orleans and I started on doing journaling and writing poetry, I did something really interesting, and I kind of had a psychedelic trip through my writing. And this is probably one of the craziest stories I'll ever share with you. And the story is, I tripped myself into the Garden of Eden by writing. And this is how I did it. So, I was writing poetry, and when you write poetry, you know, I was doing it off just my emotions. A lot of it was love poetry to my ex. A lot of it was my hurt. A lot of it was my emotion. A lot of it was, you know, what was going on with my family and friends and whatnot. It was just me spilling my guts. And a lot of it's on my blog, and you know, who else has done that? I don't know. I don't really care. You know, I'm not bashing anybody. I'm just spilling my heart. And some of it came out pretty beautiful, so I thought some people would appreciate it, and that's why I shared it, and that's why I shared it only. I wasn't trying to exploit my ex-girlfriend's heart. I wasn't trying to exploit my heart. I was just trying to share my passion for writing, and maybe show some people that, you know, writing can be a great outlet, but it can prevail some evil as well. And I'll explain what I did. So what I did was, I was kind of running out of ideas of writing and what I wanted to write about, so I started writing words backwards. And what I would do, you know, I was smoking marijuana at the time, so I was meditating over marijuana. What I would do is I would write a word backwards, or I would write a phrase backwards, and I would try to spell, you know, pronounce it phonetically, and try to pull a new phrase or a new word out through meditating over it, and, you know, canceling out any silent letters. And I was able to do so every time with every word or every phrase I had done, and it would be a connotation of what came before. So let me do an example. I was doing a lot. I'd pull stuff from a lot of Disney and a lot of American novelty. I can't think of something exactly, but let's take one for instance. So The Lion King, The Circle of Life. I would write Circle of Life out, and I would write it backwards, and I have to write it down to see it, but you know, I would pull something out that might come up as you know, the way the world goes round, but, you know, in 3 words or something like that, you know, something that's connotated to what I had written out forwardly, but an extension of that. And what I was doing, it was really, you know, looking at subliminal meaning and subliminal message behind words. And people, if there's one evil into language, and the evil aspect of language, it's hiding meaning behind words, and that's how people do it. They'll create a word by giving a meaning spelled out a certain way, and if they want to hide that meaning, they'll spell it the other way, and you have the meaning hidden by the letters. But I was decoding that, and what I was doing is I was pulling a lot of novelty, and long story short, I started writing out the Johnny Appleseed story without even really knowing the Johnny Appleseed story, and it started tripping me out. I was like, okay, how the heck did this come out of my writing? I don't remember doing this. And then I kind of came to the understanding that, you know, Johnny Appleseed was the first true original pothead. You know, he was the dude that sat under the tree and wrote out his philosophy. You know, the apple dropped from the tree, hit him in the head with the pot, and the apple gave seed unto his thought and gave seed unto his mind. You know, it's just the irony of the story. But yeah, I did this from mirroring my words, and I started writing out the story. I was like, okay, well, I'm getting into wisdom in a way I don't know if I should be getting into wisdom. Long story short, I can't really make it short. And I started pulling that. I was kind of using the idea behind the whole thought or perspective of the witch in Snow White, that you look into the mirror and you see the evil, And that's what I was doing. I was mirroring words, and I was seeing the evil behind the words. And the evil essentially led me into writing more novelty, like some Winnie the Pooh stuff that I had no idea what I was writing out. And then it led me to the Garden of Eden. And I say the Garden of Eden because it took me to a garden, and it took me to seeing a tree. And then it said a tree that might have been familiar to you, and it had a sense of evil. And I started getting nervous. I was like, well, the story in Genesis is that if you eat the fruit of the tree, you've given unto temptation. And I said, well, I'm going to keep playing this out until I see an apple on the tree. And of course, this is how it went. I don't remember it because I've given myself up to mercy, and God gave it to me. But I was waiting to see the apple from the tree, and I wrote the next line out from doing the mirror or whatever, and it was Lucifer's trick. It was his trick of temptation, and somehow I had bitten the apple without even seeing the apple, and I had gained his wisdom. And I felt defeated, and I ran outside. I lit up a cigarette, and I said, all right, I'm doing some shit I shouldn't be doing. Can I have mercy, God? And I was freaking out. I didn't know what I had gotten into. And God said, all right, come back in here, go back inside, go back to your journal, scribble out that last line. I scribbled out that last line. I got it out of my head, and he said, write this with me. And then I ended up writing out the ABCs, the 26 letters of the ABC in cursive, which is interesting. I don't even remember how to write cursive. And somehow I wrote just a simple novel story through the alphabet, pretty much describing life and how every part of wisdom and structure of life and sacred geometry is built on the cursive of the ABCs and a simple novel story that goes along with it. And the structure of the geometry of it is the root of the wisdom. And he said, all right, well, there it is. Now go burn it. And I went outside and I burned it because I had held the root of God's wisdom and God's knowledge. It was some heavy-duty stuff. But I think that will probably be the craziest story I'll ever share, non-drug or drug-related. And that was just through meditation and marijuana and my will behind writing, and giving up some wisdom that wasn't meant for me unto God. So I wanted to share that story because I don't know, it's kind of a trippy story, where are you going to hear that kind of story? But I'm not suggesting going and writing mirroring words. I think there's a title for it. It's like hypothermia something, I forget. It's called meditating over backwards words. There's an actual title for it. But at the same time, I think journaling and taking your soul and your will through a journey through your journal is something everyone has to do. And if it takes you to mirroring your language, do it. And take yourself to the Garden of Eden. Just know once you see the trees, stop there. Or maybe you give into the temptation, you have to ask for mercy as well. I don't know. I just know I got away with it, and I don't mirror language anymore for a reason. So take it as a novel story, as something spiritual that you can find just in writing. But I'll be back with some more astrology and be able to start digging back into the zodiac and start studying some Egypt as well. All right, Rastafari, I always give it up to the Almighty and Most High. One love, peace out. Enjoying this weather, and this has been the nicest summer in San Diego I've seen in a long time. We'll see. We're in a drought out here out west, so a little rain this fall wouldn't hurt y'all. All right, peace out, guys.